Okay, I made you host again.
Okay, thanks or not thanks, I don't know.
I don't know about others, but it took me about 5 or 6 tries to be able to connect. I don't know what's going on.
I luckily got in on the first one, so. Well, it's 3:00. We can get started because we have a fair amount of ground to cover at the end of the meeting with presentations from our candidates for office and for the executive committee. Welcome to the 12th meeting of the 40th session of the Faculty Senate of Texas A&M University. If you need a reminder of the Zoom features used in our Senate meetings, the Zoom tip sheet can be found on our website at the top of the current agenda page. At this time, please make sure your microphone is muted. Senator Klein will be monitoring the raise hands function. He will verbally identify you, then you can unmute your mic and ask your question. In fairness to others, please limit yourself to one question at a time. Senator Klein will also be monitoring the chat to convey messages as necessary, so please send any chat questions directly to him. We're using the registration function of Zoom to track attendance. Most visitors today have been asked to view the meeting via our live stream, but our guests and administrators who may be asked to answer questions are joining via Zoom. Visitors wishing to address the Senate may make this request by sending a chat message to Senator Klein or by using the raise hands function. Finally, if a senator wishes to offer a motion during today's meeting, please raise your hand at the appropriate time and ask to be recognized. We will begin today with the Speaker's annual State of the Senate address. Colleagues, as I wrap up 2 terms as Speaker and close out the 40th session of the Faculty Senate, I'd like to ask you to join me in a few minutes of reflection on the idea of progress, what it means, and whether we are making any. Texas A&M University has undergone massive change in the past 2 years as President Banks puts her stamp on the institution. Has it caused stress and anxiety? Of course it has, and plenty of it, especially for faculty and staff. For many in our academic community, the negative aspects of change have dominated their lives and imbued a sense of pessimism in their outlook for the future. Today, I choose to not be one of those individuals. Change is difficult, and I'd be the first to say, as I've noted repeatedly to you over the last 2 years publicly, and as I've repeatedly said privately to many in the administration, it has not been managed well in many ways at this university. But I do see reasons for optimism. I think the new School of Performance Visualization and Fine Arts holds immense promise for long-term benefit far beyond the university. I was highly critical of the change in status for our librarians, but in talking to many of them, what I see is a group that has seized what could have been a lingering, resentful commitment to limited service and instead have reorganized with optimism about a reimagined role in the institution. I look at my own college, Arts and Sciences, the result of an anguished consolidation of 3 long-standing colleges with independent identities. While many concerns remain, I see positive things happening. including an emphasis on the equitable treatment of APT faculty and a strong stand for academic freedom and what it represents for all faculty, regardless of track or rank. And speaking of APT faculty, how can we not applaud a new minimum salary that will result in significant increases for dozens of faculty, many of whom have had to work second jobs to make ends meet? Those are just some of the examples of why I do not share the belief that all is lost within our university. But there are outside factors that worry me greatly with higher education under attack from many across our state and nation. I worry about any changes to tenure that could damage our ability to attract leading scholars. I worry that efforts to limit diversity, equity, and inclusion may result in a less welcoming environment for those from underrepresented groups. I worry that any efforts to contain what is taught in our classrooms, places that are supposed to make young people think critically about ideas and the world around them, will result in self-censorship out of fear. That's why you, my fellow senators, are so valuable to the institution. You have defended the university's commitment to DEI, and you have contributed significantly to a system of promotion and review that should assure everyone that only deserving individuals are tenured at this university. Depending on what happens in the legislature in the next few weeks, you may have to redouble your efforts on those fronts and push even harder in defense of academic freedom. And one way we can do that is through shared governance. Do we have a smoothly functioning form of shared governance here? Not yet, in my view. But it's only fair to note that some of the biggest issues that concern me did not begin with this president. There is a generations-old top-down culture here that we will have to continue to work to dismantle. For me, though, the question is whether we're making progress. And I wholeheartedly believe we are. I'll just cite, pardon me, one recent example of that, the appointment of a search committee for provost. President Banks asked me, as Speaker of the Faculty Senate, to co-chair the panel. And following the SAP, with input from the Senate Executive Committee, 5 people were named to represent faculty on the committee. Senators Townsend of Galveston, Herrera of Law, Ophelia of Pharmacy, and Haig of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and former Senate Secretary Alva Ferdinand. And I can assure you they did an admirable job of representing your interests. Last August, the Senate passed a resolution calling on the President and her administration to be more transparent and to engage more forthrightly in shared governance. Since that time, President Banks has met monthly with the Executive Committee for discussion of a wide range of topics. At our request, she restored another aspect of shared governance that had died under one of her predecessors, private monthly meetings with the Speaker of the Faculty Senate. In those one-on-one sessions, she and I have had open and honest conversations about the university and the challenges it faces, both from reorganization and from many other factors. We charged several of our committees to establish new relationships with key administrators in their areas. And I've seen repeated evidence of these new channels of communication benefiting both the Senate and the administration. In my college, the Arts and Science Caucus meets monthly with the dean for what also have been very frank discussions, where strong opinions have been voiced without fear of retribution. If your caucuses are not having meetings like that with your deans, I urge you to insist on them. Shared governance only works when we all take it seriously. That's why your role is so important to the future of the institution. While it's easy to be consumed by negative narratives that grab attention, I hope you will look at the whole picture and draw your own conclusions. That's what I'm doing when I say that I'm proud of the work of this body and why I believe the current state of the Senate is one of progress. I would like to end by voicing my gratitude to all of you for giving me 2 years as your speaker. It has been a heck of a ride, but it has repeatedly confirmed my belief that you are playing a critical role in determining whether this university stays on the path to a better tomorrow. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the speaker comments portion of the meeting, which I'd like to use to take note of several things. First, our own Katrina Laporte has been named this year as one of 2 new presidential professors for teaching excellence. Congratulations, Senator Laporte. This is a most deserved honor. Senator David Ernest did not run for re-election this year, so he will be stepping down as our representative to CBAC. Senator Ernest has done a great job representing faculty concerns with benefits to the system, and I want to thank him for his service. The executive committee will be looking for someone to replace him. If you're interested, please email the Senate office to let them know. Our final outside event of the year, the reception on April 24th at the Hotel and Conference Center, was a great success, bringing together senators as well as several key administrators in an opportunity for networking and fellowship. And finally, I want to remind all senators that anything you write in the performance of your job as a public employee is subject to open records requests. You never know when someone will seek your emails, as I was reminded again recently when mine and those of the Senate office were sought by one of our fellow senators. We'll now move on to approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the April 10th meeting minutes found in attachment B? Hearing none, then I declare the minutes approved as distributed. For the consent agenda, are there any questions or concerns with our May 8th consent agenda items? Senator Townsend, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you for recognizing me. Galveston would like to withdraw one of our courses, Mars 358, from the consent agenda.
Okay, which was that, 358?
It's under new courses.
And what was the department?
Marine science.
Marine Science 358, okay. Are there any other issues with the consent agenda? Then, hearing none, I declare the consent agenda approved as submitted with the withdrawal of Marine Sciences 358. Under old business, we have 2 items that were pulled from the March agenda for further review by the Bylaws Committee of Administrative Titles. All titles have been researched and presented today by the committee as being correct to the best of their knowledge. The first proposed revision to the bylaws deals with the Rules and Regulations Committee, Attachment D1. Secretary Epstein, will you please move Attachment D1?
I move attachment D1, revisions to the Rules and Regulation Committee.
Is there any discussion? Senator Klein, can you please launch the poll?
I'll give it another minute. Looks like we're kind of, oops, there goes another one. Okay, there's two more. Give it another minute, Dale, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's been any more movement, so I'm going to end the poll. And I'll share the results. And the results are 67 in favor, yeses, 0 no's.
Very good. Then that revision to the bylaws is adopted. Now for revisions to the Scholarship Committee. Secretary Epstein, will you please move the attachment?
I move attachment D2, revisions to the Scholarship Committee.
Is there any discussion? Then Senator I see a hand up.
So I'm confused because I'm looking at the agenda and it says Undergraduate Admissions Advisory Committee. Am I reading that wrong? And then the link is to the undergraduate, not scholarship, but Undergraduate Admissions Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I think that is probably my fault from reading the script. I should have caught that. So thank you for that clarification.
Do I reread it, or is that sufficient?
Yeah, well, I think you should reread it, noting the proper committee.
I move attachment D2, which is the Undergraduate Admissions Advisory Committee.
Is there any discussion? And thank you, Senator Price, for catching that. Senator Klein, can you please launch the Senator Laporte?
I'm sorry, it takes me that long to find the raise hand function. Mine's just a point of clarification in both of these D1 and D2 that we're approving now. It's basically change of positions and titles. Yes, there's no substantive changes to these other than positions and titles. I just want to make sure I'm not missing the point.
No, I would say that you are correct on 90% of the way there. There is, though, what I consider a substantial change in the Undergraduate Admissions Advisory Committee, and that was an increase in the number of faculty representatives on that committee. So there was what I considered one change of substance, and it benefited the Faculty Senate.
Thank you, Speaker Rice.
Then Senator Klein, can you please launch the poll?
Give me 1 second to figure out how to do this. Okay, relaunch poll. There we are. We're not quite up where we were on the last poll. So I'll give it another minute or so. Okay, it looks like we're not having any more votes coming in, so I'm going to end the poll. And I just shared the results. There's 66 votes in favor of and 0 votes not in favor of.
Okay, the second revision to the bylaws is adopted. Moving to committee reports, are there any questions or concerns for the Core Curriculum Council report found in attachment C? Hearing no questions or concerns, I declare the report approved as submitted. New business. First item for today under new business is the approval of degree candidates for spring 2023 found in attachment D3. Secretary Epstein, can you please move approval of the degree candidates and note the totals for us?
I move approval of the spring 2023 degree candidates. The degrees include TAMU Main Campus, 10,961, TAMU Galveston, 186, TAMU Cutter, 106, TAMU Law, 357, and TAMU HSC, 325.
Are there any questions or comments? Then Senator Klein, could you please launch the poll for approval of the degree candidates?
Give me 1 second here. I have to find the other question. Shoot. There we are. Give it another minute or 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. It hasn't seen any motion here. So the votes are 66 in favor, none opposed.
Wonderful. Then the candidates are approved for our upcoming graduation ceremonies. And now we will move to presentation of the candidates for executive committee officers and members. Each of the candidates for an officer position or the EC will have up to 3 minutes to introduce themselves and make a statement. We'll begin with candidates for speaker-elect, and we are I'll note doing it in alphabetical order. So the first on our list is Senator Haney from Galveston.
Thank you, Dale. I just want to take a moment to thank you and the rest of the executive committee for your leadership over the past 2 years. I've learned a lot from you as speaker and hope to be able to enable and bring some of that wisdom and still count and call upon the wisdom of the existing executive committee as well as former officers to bring forward. I've been with the A&M system for now 12 years, 7 of which have been at Galveston. And as many of you can attest, I've been an outspoken, sometimes rather annoying advocate for Galveston, but I also agree with Speaker Rice's comments over the problem of overcoming this legacy type structure and this legacy thinking, especially when it comes to the satellite or branch campuses where we can't really even decide what we're called. And the system goes back and forth. We have to overcome that. And I think the best way to overcome that is building those relationships, which I mentioned in my bio. Building those relationships with appropriate counterparts, staff council at UT, SGA, the faculty council of UT, as well as our staff council here, as well as SGA where appropriate. And that will bolster and improve our voice with shared governance as we continue to try to move forward on that perspective. As Socrates said, the first thing I know is that I know nothing. And the ability to seek out wisdom and the counsel of existing faculty senate is something that I definitely would do regardless of getting a position or not. So be rest assured that I will call upon and reach out to many of you as I've done in the past and will continue to do in that role. I also want to take the moment to thank my conversations with Dr. Mark Cecilio in our brief emailing of, I have enormous respect for Dr. Cecilio and will seek out his counsel for sure in the future. And Dr. Angie Hill Price, which I worked with on legislative affairs and was always impressed with her leadership ability and her representation as well. I think going into this, whatever you decide for your speaker-elect, I think there are no bad choices here. I think down the ballot, looking at the secretary position, I think also there are no bad decisions, bad choices there. I would welcome the support and the opportunity to continue to serve the Faculty Senate in a capacity either as speaker-elect or on the executive committee where appropriate. And I thank you and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Senator Price.
Howdy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Angie Hill Price, and I'm a senator from the College of Engineering. I've actually been on the faculty since 1991. I started off as a lecturer, and then I moved into a tenure track position and am now an associate professor in manufacturing mechanical engineering technology. I have a great appreciation for all of our faculty across the university, people whom I've worked with for many years. And I like to think that I take a holistic view of my job as a senator, not just for my college, but thinking about faculty across the university. I have a huge, huge faith and belief in shared governance. I think it's the most important part that we do, not just as a faculty senate, but I think it's the obligation and responsibility of every faculty member across campus, whether they participate in faculty senate, but they have a responsibility to engage everywhere where they can, because we can't say that we're not happy about something and then not engage with the administration to make it better. So I was speaker in 2007, 2008, and then again in 2017 and 2018. I would like the opportunity to take that experience and help our Senate as we move forward with the new structure of the university, with the many changes that we still will be seeing in the future, with the potential with the changes with tenure potentially coming from the state bill, also with the DI and all the other things that could affect our day-to-day operations. And so I relish that opportunity if you'll allow it to me, and I hope that I can ask for your support in this. Again, not against anybody else, just speaking for myself, and that look forward to seeing what the future brings for our Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cecilio.
Thank you, Speaker Rice. Howdy, I'm Mark Cecilio and asking for the opportunity to serve as your next Speaker-elect of our Faculty Senate. I'm not afraid to speak truth to power to any and all, and will do so to students, faculty, and administration, as has been done by great faculty before. I recognize the difficult and complex issues facing this university. I'm a pediatrician with a 60-plus year history of devotion to and vision for the future of Texas A&M. We all can and must work together. I've welcomed, used, and encouraged faculty surveys and shared governance to help inform college, school, university leadership, and trajectory. I have been and will continue to be a principled advocate for all, consensus builder, and fair referee for all faculty, regardless of their status as APT, tenured or tenure track. I believe we should break down all barriers to offering ideals teaching, research, and service through building on our strong academic history, while also encouraging and supporting innovation in each of these three missions. I want Texas A&M to be the best university in the world, and thereby to better serve the people of Texas. In a time of great change and challenge to academic endeavors writ large, we must look to heal wounds that tend to divide us. To achieve that goal, we must promote cultures of belonging and support in both the professional as well as the personal realities of our faculty, staff, and the learners they serve. To that point, I very much thank Angie Hill Price for her wise counsel over the years, and Adam for your very kind recent comments and our opportunities to get to know each other better. To conclude, I paraphrase one of my personal histories from American history, Abraham Lincoln, who said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to bind up wounds and selflessly serve." Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to note here that this week we will first vote on the two offices, and the candidates who are not successful for those offices, their names will also then be offered on the slate of people running for executive committee. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that. So now we'll move on and hear from candidates for secretary. Senator Hale.
Howdy, y'all. You'll have to forgive the motion. I'm headed to a committee meeting here in the Texas House for Senate Bill 17 and Senate Bill 18. I'm here in my capacity as the president of the Texas Council of Faculty Senates, and I will be voicing my opposition to both of those here later this afternoon. I want to thank Senator Speaker-elect Tracy Hammond for nominating me for this position. I've done this position before. I was Faculty Senate Secretary at another state university here in Texas. I've also been speaker twice, once with Angie Hill Price in 1718, although for a different university. I'm going to pull over here for a second before I go in the room. What can I tell you don't already know about me? I'm a full professor and a clinical professor in the School of Mays Business School. I've given up tenure twice in my career, so there's no one better to talk about Senate Bill 18 than me. And I advise a now fourth-year PhD student on machine learning and energy management. And I teach large sections of business statistics, and I mean large, 386 students last fall. Like I said, I'm president of the Texas Council of Faculty Senates this year. I'm also past president of the National Fledgling National Council of Faculty Senate, which will have its first national meeting in Atlanta later this year. I asked for your vote, and I want to. All right, I'll be right there. Go to. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, ask your vote. Thanks for Andrew and Grace for stepping up and running for this important election. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Got to go.
Okay, thank you. Senator Klein.
First, I'll thank Senator Hale for representing us at the in the House today. I think many of you know me. I've been on the faculty of Texas A&M since 1998 and have served on the Senate nearly continuously since 2003. I was Speaker in 2019 and 2020, and I'm now a member of the Arts and Sciences Caucus. So after pondering and some soul searching, I decided to run for Secretary Treasurer. My reasons for running are much the same why I submitted my application for Provost after being nominated by a Faculty Senate colleague. Namely, I'm concerned over the current disconnect I see between the faculty and administration and the fact that many faculty question whether they or the work they do is truly valued by this institution. As former speaker, I remain a strong advocate for the faculty of this university and sadly see the continuing need to improve its shared governance, kind of what Dale talked about. During my provost interview, I stressed that poor communication is a major problem on campus, and it has led to an erosion of trust between the administration and its faculty. Serving on the Senate leadership team will enable me to continue to work to improve communication and try to repair trust. I think my experience and willingness to work hard can make a difference in this role. I'm also running for Secretary Treasurer for another reason. As probably all of you know, over the past couple of years, I've helped handle some of our Zoom meeting logistics. Behind the scenes, I've come to appreciate and actually be humbled by the requirement for the moderator of the Senate, I don't know what the title is of this, but I'll call it a moderator, to be able to accurately and considerately convey questions posed by senators to the meeting's guests and speakers. These questions are often on difficult topics and can challenge the speakers at times. And sometimes this happens in situations where there is a power differential between the questioner and the speaker, not Dale, the speaker we've invited. And these can make certain individuals very reluctant to ask questions themselves. So helping enable senators to voice their concerns is an important responsibility and one that I've kind of taken quite seriously. I've tried to earn the respect of senators in this important role. And I believe trying to formalize this role as part of the Secretary Treasurer duties will both increase the stature of the Secretary Treasurer position and help the Senate recognize and continue what I have felt has been a positive, if unexpected, outcome of moving to virtual meetings. At heart, I'm an institutionalist and I'm deeply committed to this university and the Senate. I feel it's my responsibility to do the best I can for the Faculty Senate and wish to serve in whatever role to which I am called. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Senator Townsend has indicated that she is moving simply to the executive committee race. So that wraps up the candidates for secretary. Now we will move to candidates for the executive committee, and I'll begin with Senator Abbey.
The benefit of having the last name Abbey, you're always first in the front of the classroom. So if you can hear me, selfless service has been my calling for decades. I know I don't look that old, though COVID made me gray in the beard. University budgetary model is my concern. I'm very concerned about centralization of the budget. I think this could be potentially catastrophic based on talking to colleagues across the nation. As a business professor in Mays, I would actually like to work with this and see what we can do to make it more seamless. Shared governance is what I really have lived for since I was a student. And as a student, it's a little different with shared governance. As faculty, it's better, but as we all know, over the last couple of years, during COVID particularly, shared governance is a relative term. So I'm hoping to make that better as an executive committee member, but we can only do what we can do, but we have to push, we have to be advocates, and we have to make sure that the selfless service that is Texas A&M's core value, one of the many, continues. So what I'm hoping to do is selfless service. As I said, somewhat more selfless at other times than others due to COVID and all the things we've faced. But again, budgetary model is my concern. I'm very concerned about centralization of the budget and how that's going to be reapportioned. And I want to keep an eye on how that's going to work. So that is my purpose.
Thank you. Senator Burge.
Thank you, Speaker Rice. As a senator from the School of Law, I've had the privilege in this past year to serve on the executive committee, and it has been a fantastic experience with doing some of the work that goes behind the scenes. I have 18 years of full-time faculty, including 10 years at Texas A&M, and I am a firm believer in constructive shared governance, with both parts of that coming together. Shared governance is critical, but we've got to choose our battles appropriately, and that's been one of the things I have admired about the leadership of the current Senate. Although you don't need to be a lawyer to fight about the law or to fight about rules and regulations. It doesn't hurt. And one thing I like to have brought, I hope to continue to bring to the executive committee, is a legal perspective and awareness on matters of legislation. What's going to come out of the state legislature at the end of the session, and also university rules, which we are frequently being called upon to review and comment on revision. And I value having a say in that. And I'd like to serve you as having a say that's for the benefit of faculty. So I hope you'll consider supporting me for executive committee. But we've got a great body regardless. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Senator Burns. That is always the problem right here at the May meeting. Often runs into conflicts that people are having with exams and other issues. So I already know that we have two others who are not going to be able to make it, and I guess Rebecca makes a third. And I just want everyone to know that the bios of those candidates will be available to you when it comes time for voting. Senator Ellis would be next, alphabetically on the list, and she also is one who could not make today's meeting. Senator Holliday.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I am Shelley Holliday, and I have been an APT, Academic Professional Track faculty member since 2000. I have been with the College of Architecture and now the New School of Architecture. So I myself have been through some change and been part of the committees for the path forward. I realize the importance of our Senate and the importance of communication, especially for shared governance. We need to have communication with administration, each other, our students, and many others. Faculty Senate needs to lead in this communication. I have served and been a part of many committees, the core curriculum, 2 working groups of the path forward, the operations committee looking at the path forward, 1 year forward, and APT committees, and many more within the School of Architecture and Texas A&M at the local, state, and national level. With all of the changes our university and state are seeing, it is vital that we have an active faculty senate, and I want to be a part of this. With the experience that I have been able to communicate, I would like to continue with my goal to contribute and practice shared governance as a representative of the executive committee of our faculty senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Rao also is not able to be here. Senator Simpson.
Hi, my name is Jessie Simpson, and I'm the senator in the libraries. So I'm an associate librarian is my rank, and I am with the newly created Research Impact Department in the university libraries. My subject specialization is STEM, and I have been serving faculty and students and community members in using targeted research for decades. So that's two decades of experience in university and academic libraries, and a decade of experience as a librarian in Texas universities. So I'm well acquainted with the needs of university libraries and larger universities in Texas, even though I have recently come to you as first a faculty person and now serving as staff in this institution. I also have served in leadership roles, the STEM Librarians South, and formerly known as the Texas STEM Librarians Conference Steering Committee, and have helped to organize huge events. So unique to libraries is the fact that they inherently touch all areas of subject expertise. So similarly, the recent Eclipse event inherently was unignorable, as it will be here in the coming years. So preparing for another big event that we can get the community involved with. So I look up to role models as a guide for my candidacy. Dr. Miller was a science and engineering librarian, and she was a professor emerita. She was the EC secretary in 2003. So like myself, a science and engineering librarian, and Bruce Neville, similarly, a previous professor and EC member at large, and my most immediate predecessor. So I'm sure there's many other librarian senators and people who have been extremely impactful, but those especially stand out to me and are my inspiration. Today, we have been through a huge reorganization. There's new and challenging technologies and procedures coming up at all times, not to mention artificial intelligence, open access, and scholarly impact. These are going to be hugely impactful for us for you as a faculty, us as scholars, and for all library stakeholders, including students. So we need someone to help communication and transparency about policy and needs in the library, an organization that again touches many areas and can adapt to the changing information landscape, as well as continuing to represent the librarians who remain diligently serving in this organization, in this institution. So again, just yeah, so final thoughts, please consider me for following the library's mission of trust, openness to risk, and strengthened by collaboration and diversity, and continuing the Aggie spirit.
Thank you. Senator Taylor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me properly.
Yeah.
This is my second term on the Senate. I'm in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And one of my primary motivations for seeking election to the executive committee is to bring representation to the now third largest college at A&M to the executive committee, not just to the Senate. One of the previous members of the Senate indicated that their real passion was in budgetary models. My real passion, born from ever since joining the Faculty Senate, is in academic affairs. Items that are of relevance to the interaction of faculty with students, obviously interaction of faculty with administrators, and to that effect, I've been pleased to have been a member of multiple working groups and committees since joining the Senate that have worked to do things like make amendments to Student Rule 7 to help students go and present research at scientific conferences, go and do things that are professionally developing activities for them and not suffer negative consequences in their courses. Work with the Dean of Student Life and Ann Raber's office to work on things such as working to make sure that students who self-report crimes on campus are not going to themselves suffer some sort of negative comeback on that. Doctors Haney and I are co-chairing the Academic Affairs Committee, and we have been working on some really, I would say, head-scratching but very exciting issues of things like AI, other processes, working with Dr. Sam's and Dr. Scott's offices, the provost offices, to understand things like open ed resources. How do we push those forward? As a member of the executive committee, my goal, my objective would be to continue to facilitate those discussions, really, again, continue to push what everyone else has said already, that being of shared governance. I will say that for those of you who don't know me, I will confess I am not highly confrontational. I tend to be a little bit more confrontation averse. However, last year I served as the caucus chair for the College of Ag and worked with a predecessor to my current dean and vice chancellor. And that was an eye-opening experience, and was also a great experience for me to begin to get more, I won't say confrontation excited, but willing to, as you say, speak truth to power, ask the tough questions and say, hey, Dean so-and-so, and now at the higher levels, you need to be communicating. You need to tell us now. Some of these things just need to be brought out into the light. And so that's going to be my real goal if elected to the executive committee, is to continue to help us work with administrators to shed light on what's going on, push us all forward. But again, my real passion is in the academic elements of this. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Senator Townsend.
Hi, good afternoon. I am an instructional associate professor from Galveston. I've had the privilege to serve on the Senate for a number of years, and also executive committee through the last few years. One of the things that I have learned from my time at A&M is to be able to deal with change. And in my role at A&M, I've certainly no stranger to change, not only the last few years, which brought some very abrupt changes, but even going back to the complete move of our campus to College Station and reopening in 2 weeks. So one of the things I have learned over time is that to be able to step back, take a look at the big picture. I tend to be a big picture kind of person, and see how the things we are facing impact everyone, all the campuses, the students, what's going on in the big picture. I have enjoyed my time on executive committee in working through many of the issues that have come forth in the last few years. I think also it is time for us to take a look at what we've come through in the past few years and learn from that and forge a way to a new cohesive future amongst all of us, and faculty and administration, through a strong shared governance perspective. And I would appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Wade.
My apologies. Good afternoon, everyone. I am a new member of the Senate. I bring with me over 30 years of industry experience, as well as collaborative experience working with different sectors, industry, academe, and government. What I bring it to the executive committee is really a fresh look into the issues that we are all encountering. I as with anything, sometimes when you have been a faculty for a long time, maybe there are some other things that a new faculty such as myself could uncover. I also try to bring in the APT perspective. I am actually very blessed to be in a very inclusive department. However, I know that my department is probably a minority in the university space that we're in. So I guess in short, what I bring to the Faculty Senate is a fresh perspective with no biases. Again, being from industry, I have experience collaborating with different sectors. I've been an analyst for as long as I can remember in the computer science field, and I'm a good listener. And my strength is listening without bias and listening without having a preconceived solution in my mind. So I think I could represent a lot of different constituents fairly, without bias, without any kind of preconceived notions. So whether you support my colleagues or myself, I hope that you will consider supporting those that you think will represent the Senate and the faculty at large in the best way.
Thank you. And our final one on the list is Senator Woosley, but I believe he may also be among those with a conflict today. So I'll note again that balloting for the officers will take place first this coming week. And after that election is finished, then we'll have balloting for the executive committee. So please keep your eye on your email, and I would urge you to vote for the candidates of choice, because it's important to continue to be involved. With no other new business on the agenda, I invite Speaker-elect Hammond to take us into the committee of the whole.
Thank you, Speaker Rice. I want to begin by asking if there are any positive actions or, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I see that somehow Senator Carpenter got left off of our list. So I'm glad you caught that, Senator Carpenter. If obviously you're here, then please go ahead with your statement.
No, not a problem. I've already entered it there. I don't really have a whole lot, and I know that we need to move forward. My name is Rob Carpenter. I am a surgeon by training. I serve as one of the senators for the School of Medicine. Having worked hard for not only the university and the HSC, but the Senate itself in order to better serve employees and learners at Texas A&M University through the pandemic. My hope is that I can continue to build regardless of whether or not I'm chosen to serve in this capacity, and the very important work that Speaker Rice has already started around engaging the leadership of the university and system on improving well-being for our faculty and staff, as well as our students. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I apologize.
Oh, and I apologize for skipping over your name. I'm sorry. Then I think we have everyone covered now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Speaker-elect Hammond.
Thank you, Speaker Rice. I want to begin by asking if there are any positive actions or items of concern that are occurring on campus related to diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility.
Senator Hale raised his hand. I don't know if you see that, Tracy.
Oh, I cannot see that. Can you handle the?
Senator Hale, please go ahead.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, Speaker-elect Hammond, are you still driving here?
Yes.
Be careful. Well, if it does it have to be
Well,
on
I'm pulled
campus?
over right now. I'm not driving right now.
Okay,
I'm pulled
okay,
over.
good. Thank you. Does it have to, you said it has to be on campus. I'm not on campus, but it has to do with a DEI. I am here at the Texas Capitol to oppose Senate Bill 17 in its current form.
So Tracy, I don't see any other hands raised on the DEI front.
Thank you so much. Moving on to general items, is there any business for the committee of the whole?
Senator Tagg has his hand raised.
Thank you, Senator Klein. I am speaking on behalf of the Arts and Sciences Caucus in bringing concern regarding the Opportunity Majors program, which was designed to place students who are deemed admissible but whose chosen major is full. Specifically, 3 items of concern: the publicity of the program to both departments within and outside of the program has not been particularly effective. Multiple faculty representatives from outside the program and inside the program were unaware of its existence. Many more had questions regarding its implementation. The 2 biggest questions that have arisen in our caucus discussions are what prevents a student from simply taking general classes and or classes toward the desired major, not the one that they were admitted into. And if they don't make the cut, what does this do in terms of increasing their time to graduation and their overall student success? And then secondly, how will the Opportunity Major Department programs be evaluated with regard to retention? And so I submit this as our concern.
I don't see any other hands raised, but while I have a chance, I'm going to raise my hand and just thank Dale for his 2 long years of service. I can't imagine done 2 back to back. So thank you for everything you've done for the Senate, Dale.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome.
Oh, so we have some, Senator Ware has his hand raised next, I think.
Thank you, Senator Klein, for recognizing me. I bring 2 things today. One is a concern, one is a warning. First, the concern. You may know that on April 13th, the School of Medicine, basically the Health Science Center, received an active shooter threat that was called in, and first responders did respond. My concern about this is that a code maroon was never issued. I did not find out about it until I read the news that this was occurring. I don't know who made the decision not to issue a code maroon for this particular threat, which fortunately turned out to be a hoax. But I find it reprehensible that anyone would stop a warning from going out. So that's my concern. The next thing I have is the warning. You may or may not be aware of it, senators, but there are forces afoot which are hell-bent on silencing dissent in this university, to the point that they would destroy an entire school in order to silence a single voice. That should scare you. I know it scares me. And that is what I leave you with, because this is actually my last faculty senate meeting. So thank you all for your service. Thank you all for your sacrifice. Thank you all for your efforts. Please continue charging forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ware, for your service. Senator Taylor has his hand raised next.
Yes, to the senator's questions previous to Senator Ware, Doctors Hill Price and I, if he were interested, we could help try to put him in touch with some relevant personnel or answer some of those questions as it regards the opportunity majors through a university level committee with some of those offices that are essentially tasked with, shall we say, executing those programs. So if you would like us to, we're happy to put you in touch with the right people. We can answer some of those questions as it regards how opportunity majors are identified and how they will change year in and year out, what they actually are. So if you're receptive to that, let us know. Thank you.
And I apologize if I pronounced this wrong. Senator O'Philly.
You did an absolutely great job. That's the correct pronunciation. Howdy, everybody. I want to say thank you, first of all, to each and every one for the opportunity to serve. It's been enlightening having to watch each and every one and going to each and every one of these meetings and all that. I want to especially thank the speaker, Dale Rice, for doing a phenomenal job of navigating and using a lot of emotional intelligence to kind of navigate the whole system and all that. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve on the provost committee, because I don't know who chose me, but somehow it was a very great experience for me. And this is going to be my last one because I lost the election. It'll be my last time at the meeting, but I just wanted to express and say thank you to everybody and keep on doing the great job. Thank you.
Senator Alvarado has his hand raised next.
Hi, I just want to know if the Faculty Senate plans to go back to Rudder 601 in the fall this year.
I will answer that, and yes, the answer is yes, but not during the summer. We're going to continue meetings virtually over the summer so faculty can travel and do whatever they need to do. For faculty that can't participate over the summer, please do send in the form so we don't count you for a quorum. So we'll send that email out for if you want to be not counted for a quorum next week.
And there's a follow-up message. You may want to take a look at the chat. Will there be cookies and iced tea and coffee?
Probably something like that. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Senator Angie Hill Price has her hand raised next.
And it will be hybrid, of course. So anybody that needs to not be present it's absolutely fine. You know, we want to be able to support our members in Qatar and Galveston, etc.
I was just going to say to remind all the senators that though the officers change in May, the senator terms don't end until August 31st. So if you are not reelected or if you are stepping away from the Senate, you're actually still a senator until August 31st, which means you get the fun of summer meetings if we have them all.
Thank you for that information.
Senator Laporte has her hand raised next.
Mine was circling back to a few of the comments that have been made about communication. I'd like to know more about what Senator Weir said, firstly. But the second thing I want to raise is something that we were discussing in our caucus meetings, which, by the way, Dale is correct. We're having amazing meetings with our interim dean, and they've been very fruitful. And if you are not meeting with your deans as a caucus, I encourage you to do so. But in terms of communication, I would like to know what the university's strategy is for communication, because it seems that there has been a lot of clamping down on what we can and cannot send and listservs and things like that. And I recently organized an event and found it almost impossible to advertise the event on campus because of the lockdowns on communication. So I understand the need to control communication, but I'd like to see the strategy and in a transparent kind of process. What's going on? What are the plans, and how are we going to be facilitating university-wide communications going forward?
Senator Alvarado has his hand raised next.
Yes, I would like to know if there's any kind of timeline for appointing permanent full-time the provost, as you know, and some of the deans, right? We have all these searches. Do we know if the administration has decided when to fill those positions?
Well, I can speak to the provost, not to when President Banks is going to make her decision and announce it, but I can tell you that the committee submitted a final list of candidates to President Banks on Friday and discussed them with her. So we did that just before she left for Qatar. And my assumption is that over the next few days, she'll review that information and talk to whoever she wants to. So I would not expect that is a long way in the future. I would think it's going to be sooner than later.
And what about the other positions, Dean of Engineering and the other?
Dean of Engineering has been delayed until the fall because the search went national, and the executive search is working on making sure it is in fact advertised nationally, and that there will be the opportunity for people elsewhere to apply. Arts and Sciences, as that was noted, is happening soon, and those in Arts and Sciences who would like to be on the search committee need to submit their names by, I believe it's Wednesday, for the election for the search committee. And then and I think that will begin with the call for candidates and all. Was there another one you were inquiring about, Jorge?
Well, I guess Mays Business School already picked someone, right? I'm not sure.
Yes, there is a new dean in Mays.
Now about the one Arts and Sciences, why is taking so long? I mean, I think they have had an interim for some time now, right? And engineering the same way. I mean, usually you appoint someone for maybe a semester or two, but they seem to be, at least in those two cases, the current interim deans have been in those positions for over a year. Or even more. So why? I mean, that's kind of strange, in my opinion.
That's a question I can't answer. I think that's best directed to President Banks.
Okay, thank you.
Before we go to the next question, just another thing to follow up, Jorge. I do not believe, with regards to Arts and Sciences, the intent would be to bring anybody onto campus until the fall when people are back. I don't know if that was.
If I may follow up, I know I'm taking time from other senators, but what was the faculty turnout for the provost meetings? I know that we had all these provost meetings, and I heard from some of my colleagues that some of those meetings were not well attended. I don't know, because they crammed them together, or people don't care anymore. I mean, I just want to know, were those meetings well attended? The faculty?
No, they were not. Sadly, they were poorly attended.
Well, it's okay. Thank you for letting me know.
It was the only one in at least one of the meetings.
Oh my God. Well, I think that is a reflection of how many faculty members think about the state of affairs across the university.
I believe Senator Miranda has his hand up now.
I will say, just to respond to that, I will say that the faculty Senate meeting was the best well attended in terms of like the Zoom output. Or of course we couldn't see the live, who was it participating in the live stream for the main faculty one, but the faculty Senate one, really nice turnout. That was probably the strongest turnout of the events.
I believe Senator Miranda is up next.
Thank you, Senator Payne. So I am following up on Senator Ware's comment about the swatting incident that happened at the Health Science Center. And as he mentioned, somebody called in an active shooter threat, and none of us in the building knew about it, including our security people. We were led to believe that there was a fire alarm, and the way you deal with that, a fire alarm is different from the way you deal with a potential active shooter. So there's actually three different issues that are really important. One is that we didn't know, including our security guards who had guns pointed at them. One of our security people came out to find out what was happening and had several cops laser him and was merciful that nothing else happened. The second thing is that this was a swatting event, and so that caused, maybe about 50 or 100 police. It just seemed like a huge amount of armed people around every post and pillar in campus. That is a particularly big problem for persons of color. And it puts their life and safety at risk when you have a lot of armed police who might shoot first and ask questions later. And that is something that we have not even started talking about. And a number of our people, janitors and things like that, were very much more impacted, I think, than many of our faculty who are largely, let's put it bluntly, white. Including our CEO, who was able to, walk up to the armed police quite well, quite safely. So that is one issue. And the second issue, as I said, was that nobody knew what was happening. The third issue is the reaction that has happened since then. Our health science center is in complete lockdown. It is utterly ridiculous. Every wing is locked down. Faculty can't meet other faculty. Students can't come and meet with us. Even within the School of Medicine, for example, leave alone students from outside of the School of Medicine. How are they supposed to take classes at the School of Medicine? I had a student waiting for me, couldn't get in, was supposed to meet with me. So all of these things we need to start thinking about. If we are an educational institution first, we need to find a way to deal with the new reality of these types of swatting incidents that can be so easily done, and not forget that we are here for the students first, and that openness and transparency and sharing of access and knowledge is our prime function. So I think this was a particularly serious incident for several reasons. One is, as I said, because nobody knew what was happening. Second is because it put certain people at increased risk by its very nature. And thirdly, because it is changing what is a fundamental aspect of education, which is openness and communication.
Senator Reynolds has her hand up next.
Howdy, I'm putting a bit of a memorandum that went around my department about use of course materials that are created by the instructor in the course. I'm not sure how much this has gone around or how far it's gone in the process, but as someone who has put forth a lot of effort to create less expensive materials for her class to use, this is a little bit concerning to me, and I know there are ways that to go around it. I'm just not sure in the idea of this OER and trying to create all the free things for students. It seems like they want us to create stuff but not be compensated for it in any way. or in a very minimal way. And I'm just a little concerned about it. Thank you.
Is Dr. Scott around? You may have an answer.
About the OER or the new SAP?
Perhaps both.
I don't have an answer on the SAP, but I can research that and forward a response to Dale to share with the Senate. I got it at, I think, the same time you did. The OER is certainly an opt-in only. It is not meant to undercut or challenge what faculty are choosing. We realize there will be some courses where there may be not a good OER possibility or one that you choose to go with, and that's why it is a RFP and there is no pressure to do that. So I hear what you're saying about, if I write something, how can I be sure? That's the one thing that I'll have to go back and find out what the intention of the SAP was and how that will be resolved.
Thank you.
Grace, do you wish to go?
Yes, I wasn't sure I was up next. I wanted to circle back to the comments about Senate meetings being held in person next year. I understand that we were operating under a waiver the last couple of years to be able to meet by Zoom, but I do believe you took all of the distributed campuses by surprise with the offhanded remark about coming back in person next year. It would have been really great to have a discussion and lay out a game plan to include all of the people that are on this call from remote locations. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Grace, and maybe you can help us formulate a plan over the summer to figure out how we can go forward.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate the opportunity.
Senator Rice has his hand raised next.
Well, I was going to speak to the exact same issue that Grace just spoke to. I don't want to contradict hugely soon-to-be Speaker Hammond, but the decision to spend a year online was made by the full Senate. And I'm assuming that any decision to not do that, to meet back in person again, would be a decision made by the full Senate, not by an individual. And I also want to note that the very reason that we did that, or a huge contributing factor, was not simply the pandemic, but the fact that for many people, the ability to be on Zoom has a real equalizing effect. It puts those who are in the remote locations on exactly the same footing as those of us who are on the central campus. And I think that that was a very important factor that was part of the discussion. I've also heard from people who had childcare issues who really appreciated the fact that the meetings were on Zoom, and again, that there was the ability not only they didn't have to pick up and leave a meeting, they could simply head out and remain active in the meeting. So I think there needs the kind of follow-up that we said a year ago that we would have, which is a pretty major evaluation of, was this successful or not successful? Would we like to keep this going forward for the kind of convenience and things that it offered? Or do we want to go back in person and that ultimately the decision would be made by the full Senate?
Well noted.
I think Dr. Scott wishes to address a previous question.
Yes, with a hat tip to my colleague Heather Lynch, who talked about that and I'll drop it back in the chat again because it's gone up a little bit, but that is a system-wide SAP and Faculty Affairs is collecting information. So I'll drop the link in there for folks to look at and then to provide comment if that's okay. Thank you, Heather.
Senator Angie Hill Price has her hand raised.
Howdy. I was just going to talk about that SAP. So just for context for some of us who are longer timers, that was actually something we had been discussing even here at the university before it was done at the system. This is a long time ago. Yes, definitely provide that, but this isn't new, and I don't believe in any way it has anything to do with the OERs. It's just really awful timing. But that was a concern that was actually brought up in the Senate, that we had a faculty member who was writing stuff and then requiring the students to spend a really expensive amount of money to buy that faculty member's course materials. And they weren't vetted by anybody else. It was just this person said, hey, I've developed this stuff and you're going to pay all this extra things. And so the concern from the faculty, and even to protect that, even if it was a great thing to protect that faculty member from the appearance of doing something, questionable, to have a review process to make sure that other people reviewed the material to make sure it was appropriate, and then to eliminate that appearance of conflict of interest. So that's where it came from. And actually, this was something even before, like I said, before the system started tackling, we were talking about this in Senate. And I think we even had a policy that we had pushed forward through general counsel and then it evaporated. So just for what it's worth.
Senator Laporte has her hand raised next.
Mine was just circling back to the conversation about online remote meetings and the leveling mechanism that Zoom provides. And I personally don't mind continuing to meet via Zoom. One of the things that I find incredibly frustrating about this is the back and forth on the conversation. When we met in person, we were able to have a topic, talk about it, and then move to the next topic. But now with the hands raised function, we've never really moved beyond the initial implementation of Zoom, and we go hands raised. One person's talking about an active shooter on campus, and the next person's talking about open access records, and then we go back to shooter, and then we go back to, and it's just like it's friggin' confusing. So if we do decide to go hybrid, and I would suggest that's probably the best way, we need a mechanism to control the flow of the conversation, especially in the committee of the whole, so that we give some of these important topics the correct airing and don't just move flippantly to something else. That I find that very almost disingenuous and doing a disservice to the people who had the wherewithal to bring these points forward in the committee of the whole. End of rant.
Senator Haney has his hand raised.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Just to respond to Dr. Laporte's point, that could be handled by changing the structure of the committee of the whole to more okay, this is our topic, this is what we're discussing now, and limiting that, not completely revamping committee of the whole, but changing it to where we have a topic before the committee of the whole, we discuss and exhaust that and then move on, so we can still achieve that through Zoom.
So, Speaker-elect Hammond, I do not see any more hands raised.
I now return the meeting to Speaker Rice.
Thank you, Speaker-elect Hammond. And now, as we enter the 41st session of the Faculty Senate, beginning our 5th decade of shared governance, I pass the gavel to Speaker Hammond with best wishes for a successful year ahead.
Thank you, former Speaker Rice. And I would like to let everybody know how proud and amazing I am of all the things that former Speaker Rice has accomplished over the last 2 years. I have learned an immense amount from him, and I look forward to his continued guidance over the next year. He will be a senator for the next 3 months while he finishes out his position. He has lost his senator seat to Karen Woolley, but he will continue to be an ex officio member of the Speaker of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, where he can continue for the next year to guide me through this tumultuous next year, as I'm sure it will be. So again, thank you so much, Speaker Rice, former Speaker Rice, and it is amazing. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Senator Angel Price moved to adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining us today. I look forward to serving as your speaker.